My husband doesn't love me, let alone our child. The day our son was born, he didn't even look at him. He just tossed him into my arms. Later, his first love returned to the country. The usually cold man got drunk at home for the first time, laughing as he held our child in his arms. Our son, overjoyed, wrapped his arms around the man's neck and whispered to me, "Mom, what's wrong with Uncle?" I knelt down and hugged him, tearing up as I explained, "The person Uncle likes is back, so we shouldn't disturb him anymore. We're moving out." I took my son back to his room to sleep. I returned to the guest room, opened my laptop, and started drafting the divorce papers. This year marks the 7th year of my marriage to Gu Huaiji, and also the 7th year we've lived apart. Now, I've finally decided to let him go. As I opened the door, my 7-year-old son came to me holding a model airplane, asking, "Mom, are we really moving out?" He looked at me, his eyes full of reluctance. "But Uncle hugged me tonight. Does that mean he's starting to like me?" I was stunned, feeling a bit dazed. 7 years of marriage, and Gu Huaiji never allowed our son to call him Dad. When he was 2, Gu Huaiji took him to the supermarket. On the way, they ran into an acquaintance because our son accidentally called out, "Dad." He put our toddler down on the ground, making him walk home. By the time I got back, our son had fallen countless times. His knees and palms scraped raw. When he was 4, our son begged for ages before Gu Huaiji agreed to take him to the amusement park. Again, because of an innocent dad, Gu Huaiji let go of his hand, leaving a 4-year-old lost in the crowd. When we finally found him, he was hiding in a bush, crying so hard he almost passed out. After that, our son learned to call him Uncle. Our family became a complete joke. Thinking of this, my nose stung, and I couldn't help but pull my son into a tight hug. "Lele, the person Uncle likes is coming back. We can't stay in this house any longer." His eyes dimmed, but then he quickly held up the model airplane. "But Mom, Uncle gave me a gift tonight. If he doesn't like me, why would he give me a gift?" His expression was so desperate to prove he was a child loved by his father. I opened my mouth, but couldn't say a word. What could I say? Should I tell him Gu Huaiji was happy because his first love was back, or that this gift was only because of another woman? I couldn't say anything. I could only swallow the bitterness and sorrow in silence. Just like before, with a whitewashed truth. Protecting my child, I kissed my son's forehead, wiping tears from the corners of my eyes where he couldn't see. This is the illusion a mother maintains, even in the depths of pain. Suppressing the urge to sob, I smiled and said, "Lele, if Mommy wanted to take you away from Uncle, would you be willing?" My son's body stiffened. Then he whispered, "Can't we stay?" I haven't openly called him Daddy yet. The tears could no longer be held back. I bit my lip. "Lele, Uncle, he doesn't like us staying in his home. Mommy will take you away, okay?" My son withdrew his hand and hugged the airplane model tightly. After a long silence, he said, "I want to give Uncle 3 more chances. If he really doesn't like us, we'll leave him forever." Closing my eyes, I agreed to my son's request. "Okay, Gu Huaiji, my son and I are giving you 3 more chances. After that, there will never be a place for you in this family again." Today is Friday, the day Gu Huaiji's white moonlight returns to the country. They were college sweethearts and got engaged after graduation. But just a month before the wedding, Ianku fell in love at first sight with a French man. She abandoned Gu Huaiji without hesitation and went to France to pursue true love. From then on, they went their separate ways. Gu Huaiji was depressed for a long time because of her. That's when I became his assistant. One drunken night, we had a child. I became his secret wife, and my child was unwelcomed by him. After printing out the divorce agreement drafted yesterday, I started preparing my resignation letter. Unlike my son, I've seen enough of Gu Huaiji's cold indifference. I won't foolishly wait for a playboy change. 7 years is enough to shatter all my naive fantasies. Xian, are you really resigning? A colleague glanced at my screen and whispered. I smiled, offering the excuse I prepared long ago. Yes, the child's father is abroad. I plan to take the child and join him. A family reunion. My colleague nodded. That's good. Raising a child alone here must have been hard. You know, we all secretly thought you were a single mom. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. I'm not a single mom, but I'm worse off than one. My eyes began to sting, but I quickly plastered on a practiced smile, not daring to let anyone notice. After submitting my resignation, Gu Huaiji walked in with Ianku. The woman walked ahead, a gentle smile on her face. Gu Huaiji walked behind her. His eyes never left her for a second. A colleague nudged me, whispering, "Yanexin, did you see that? Our boss Gu is finally blooming like an iron tree." I forced a smile, but inside, it was pouring rain. An iron tree only takes a decade to bloom. But for Gu Huaiji, even if I waited a lifetime, he'd never spare me a glance. As we passed each other, I couldn't help but call out, "Why?" I barely started when a man shot me an icy glare. "Assistant Xiao, is there something you need?" His distant tone carried a warning, urging me to swallow my words. A warning to remember my place. I lowered my eyes, using my last strength to hide my reddened eyes. "Sorry, boss Gu." Gu Huaiji gave a faint hum, immediately withdrawing his gaze. His focus returned to Ianku, as if she was his entire world. He's my husband, the father of my child. Yet here and now, he didn't bother hiding his affection for another woman. It's ironic, but also sobering. Thinking of this, I let out a self-deprecating laugh. Originally, I wanted to tell him I was resigning, but now, it seems unnecessary. After all, he never cared. Not about my feelings, not about our child, and certainly not about this hollow marriage. Returning to my desk, I got a call from my son on his kid's watch. "Mom, there's a parent-teacher meeting tonight. School let out early today. Uncle Shun brought me to see you." I froze. instinctively standing to leave, only to see Gu Huaiji reach out to fix Young's hair. Not far away, my son stood with his backpack, a small figure by the elevator, staring as his father touched a strange woman so intimately. That gentleness, that patience, we'd both seen it before. I moved to take him away, but Gu Huaiji noticed our son. The man stiffened, pulling back his hand on reflex. Yet the next moment, he shielded the woman as they walked past our son, as if he didn't know him. My heart ached. I quickly led my son back to my desk. Before I could explain, his eyes reddened. Mom, is that the woman Uncle likes? In that instant, I lost all ability to speak. I could only nod through tears. My son asked no more, quietly taking out his homework to write. But tears still couldn't help soaking the paper. I held my son, who was my whole world. The time for my son and me to leave Gu Huaiji. You have 2 chances left. After packing up, my son and I were ready to go home. On the way, my son asked me, Mom, for tonight's parent-teacher meeting, can Uncle come? 7 years of marriage. Gu Huaiji had never attended our son's parent-teacher meetings. Seeing the hope in his eyes, I couldn't bear to say no. I sent a message to Gu Huaiji. Our son has a parent-teacher meeting tonight. Are you free? The message was sent, but as usual, it went unanswered. My son lowered his head, hugging his backpack and asking, he doesn't want to come, does he? Then, he forced a smile and said nonchalantly, it's okay. Uncle is busy. I understand. Hearing my son's mature words, my chest felt as if a heavy stone was pressing down on it. So painful I could barely breathe. Just as I was about to speak, my phone pinged. It was a message from Gu Huaiji. I'm free. I'll come. Joy instantly flooded my heart. I couldn't wait to show the chat to my son. Lele, do you see? Dad said he'll come. My son froze for a moment, then broke into a happy smile. 7 years of marriage. This was the first time Gu Huaiji agreed to attend our son's parent-teacher meeting. With Gu Huaiji's confirmation, my son was excited the whole way. He chattered nonstop about how many times his teacher had praised him this semester, how many high scores he'd gotten, how many awards he'd received, and how he'd been elected class monitor. His teacher promised to announce it at tonight's meeting. Then he asked me, Mom, if Dad knows how well I'm doing at school, he'll like me more, right? I froze, my heart aching even more. I silently prayed Gu Huaiji wouldn't stand us up. Before we left, I hoped my son would get his wish, even if it was just us fooling ourselves. The clock on the wall ticked on and on. The parent-teacher meeting drawing closer. Gu Huaiji still hadn't shown up, but Young's social media updated. In the photo, a man sat beside an unfamiliar little boy, guiding him as they built Legos. The caption read, Future Great Dad. I turned to the living room, where my 7-year-old sat quietly playing with his toys. Also Legos, the same age, also needing companionship. But by his side, there was never a father named Gu Huaiji. Sensing my gaze, my son seemed to understand something. He asked me cautiously, Mom, is Dad busy again? I stared blankly into my son's eyes, afraid to tell him the truth. His dad wasn't busy. He was spending time with another child. I couldn't say a word, just like so many times before. I pulled my son into my arms, heart aching, and whispered, it's okay. You still have me. I'll always be here for you. My son, understanding, didn't ask further, but his eyes reddened despite himself. On the way to school, neither of us mentioned Gu Huaiji, as if he'd never made any promises. And this family had always been just the two of us. Gu Huaiji, you have one last chance. After parking, I held my son's hand and walked into the school. But the moment we stepped into the classroom, I froze. Gu Huaiji, Dad. Gu Huaiji sat by the window. Hearing us, he instinctively turned, his pupils shrinking. Why are you here? The surprise in his voice made me pause. A bad feeling rose in my chest. My son had been in elementary school for half a year, yet Gu Huaiji didn't even know his class name. My son, not hearing clearly, ran excitedly to him. Dad, you. Gu Huaiji frowned. What did you call me? My son's expression stiffened before he smoothly corrected himself. Uncle, you're in the wrong seat. Mine is up front. He looked at Gu Huaiji, eyes full of joy. This was Gu Huaiji's first time attending our son's parent-teacher meeting, and the first time he'd kept a promise. But the excitement didn't last long. The next second, Gu Huaiji avoided his gaze. No mistake. This is my seat. My son froze. Before he could speak, someone bumped into him. Move. This is my Uncle Gu. Instinctively, I pulled my son into my arms. Gu Huaiji also stood abruptly, but meeting Yunka's startled gaze, he hesitated. Withdrawing his hand, he shielded the boy behind him and said stiffly, Yang didn't mean to. I apologize for him. My son and I were stunned. This kind of protection, this kind of care, he'd never received it before. Who is he? I stood and asked softly. Gu Huaiji faltered. Meeting my eyes, guilt flickered in his gaze. A friend's child. I murmured, but I knew. This was the boy in Yunka's photos, the one Gu Huaiji was willing to spend time with. Sure enough, Yunka walked in with water, surprised to see us. Assistant Xiao, are you also here for the parent-teacher meeting? Why isn't the child's father here? Hearing this, I instinctively looked at Gu Huaiji, but all I saw was his evasive gaze, and I understood. He was afraid I'd expose him. In a daze, I felt like I was back on the day Yunku returned to the country. That day, the usually cold man got drunk for the first time. And for the first time, when he heard his son call him Dad, he smiled. Both my son and I thought we were finally about to find happiness. But the next moment, the name Gu Huaiji murmured was Yunka's. Only then did I realize He had mistaken the person. I unconsciously tightened my grip on my son's hand. I was about to speak, but my son beat me to it, saying, "My dad isn't in the country. He's very busy. I don't want to disturb him." One sentence left both of us shocked. I couldn't believe it and looked down, only to see my son's slightly reddened eyes. He looked at Gu Huaiji, forcing a well-behaved smile. "Uncle Gu, Mom, and I'll go first." At this moment, all the sorrow was stuck in my chest. The moment I turned around, Gu Huaiji suddenly grabbed me. "Lele, what did he just say?" Gu Huaiji looked at my son in shock, as if confirming something. Was it because the child who once couldn't be driven away had now learned to keep his distance on his own? I forced a smile, finding it incredibly ironic. I didn't say anything. "Boss Gu, the parent-teacher meeting is about to start." Pulling my hand away, I took my son to the front and sat down. Even as I sat down, I could still feel the intense gaze from behind. But no matter how intense, it couldn't warm my heart. The parent-teacher meeting started as scheduled. Holding my son, for the first time, I wished the teacher's voice could be harsher, to block out the affectionate chatter of that happy family behind us. My son was also specially mentioned by the teacher as expected, announcing that he had become the class monitor this semester. He was asked to give a speech, but he refused. He didn't want to go on stage or speak. I knew. He didn't want to see Gu Huaiji sitting with that child. He didn't want to admit that his own father would rather attend a parent-teacher meeting for someone else's child than let him openly call him dad. After it ended, I took my son to the teacher's office to complete the withdrawal procedures. Walking out the school gate, I ran into Gu Huaiji, who was waiting for someone. He stood by the roadside, as if he'd been waiting for a long time. He was holding a stick of cotton candy. "Why did it take you so long to come out?" "Let's go home together," Gu Huaiji said. He handed the cotton candy to his son. "Let's go home together." Once upon a time, this was the state my son and I looked forward to the most. But now, it only sounds ironic. My son reached out and took the cotton candy from Gu Huaiji's hand. His face, gloomy all evening, finally broke into a smile. Seeing the anticipation in my son's eyes, my heart softened. I was about to agree when I heard him say, "Yunka's child is a transfer student. He didn't participate in the previous class committee election. Why don't you ask our son to tell the homeroom teacher that he won't be the class monitor this time, and give the opportunity to Yang Yang?" A single casual sentence chilled both my son and me to the core. Indeed, all gifts come with a hidden price. Just like this stick of cotton candy, it also has its cost. "Okay, Uncle Gu," my son called out, his eyes red, as he put the cotton candy into his mouth. Gu Huaiji's eyes warmed slightly as he reached for our son's hand, but his phone rang. It was Yi Yunku. "Huaiji, Yang Yang isn't feeling well. Can you come with us right now?" Gu Huaiji's expression changed instantly. He turned around and got into the car. As he closed the door, our son suddenly shouted, "Dad?" Gu Huaiji paused, his hand on the door. He leaned out and met our son's reddened eyes. After a long silence, he said, "Be safe." This time, he didn't correct our son. But this was the last time our son called him Dad. That night, my son and I packed our bags and booked tickets abroad. Neither of us mentioned Gu Huaiji again. The living room would no longer have a light left on all night waiting for him. Early the next morning, my son and I left with our luggage. We checked in and boarded the plane. Before turning off my phone, I sent Gu Huaiji one last message. "Wishing you happiness." The next second, the long silent chat window erupted with notifications. My finger hovered over the power button, hesitating. Lele noticed my hesitation and glanced at the screen. His eyes instantly reddened. He tugged at my sleeve and reminded me in a muffled voice, "Mom, it's time to go." I smiled and ruffled his hair, heartbroken by his sudden maturity. At the company, Gu Huaiji stared at the power off notification on his screen, his frown deepening. Yesterday, he had rushed over, only to find that Yang Yang was just hungry and throwing a tantrum for KFC. He remembered Lele, whom he left behind. A pang of guilt arose in his heart. Yang Yang enjoyed the meal very much today. If only he had taken Lele to KFC once, he would probably have been very happy too. Young's voice interrupted his thoughts. Gu Huaiji looked at Yi Yunku in her low-cut bodycon dress. He frowned slightly. Xiaoyan Xin had a great figure, but she always covered herself up tightly. She would never dress like this. Yi Yunku noticed Gu Huaiji's stunned expression, thinking he was captivated by her charm. She leaned in closer. "The client is already here. The shareholders are here too. Let me accompany you this time." A strong scent of roses wafted from her. Gu Huaiji suddenly sneezed several times. Gu Huaiji was allergic to perfume. After I found out, I gave away all my perfume. I even switched to lightly scented tea shampoo. But Yi Yunku, his ex-fiancée of many years, had completely forgotten. Gu Huaiji silently distanced himself from her. Then he stood up and headed to the meeting room. Last time, he had agreed to let Yi Yunku return to work. This was the perfect opportunity to formally introduce her in front of everyone. He also wanted to take this chance to make it clear that Yi Yunku was under Boss Gu's protection. Seeing Gu Huaiji's silent approval, Yi Yunku followed him in her high heels. In the meeting room, everyone was eagerly discussing the sexy secretary they had seen in the CEO's office earlier. But they all fell silent when Gu Huaiji entered. Gu Huaiji acted as if he didn't notice. He opened the file on the table and frowned after just one glance. The others also looked uneasy as they checked their own files. Every document was marked with crayon scribbles. The messy, too. Characters were clearly a child's handwriting. Gu Huaiji tossed his file onto the table. His tone was icy. "Who prepared these documents? Do you lack basic work competence?" The department heads exchanged glances. All the files had been forwarded to the CEO's office by them and printed by the secretary. Even if there was a problem, it wasn't their fault. Gu Huaiji scanned the room with a frosty gaze. Finally, he coldly ordered, "Call Assistant Xiao over." The HR director hesitated. "Boss Gu, Assistant Xiao." Before he could finish, The client cut him off and slammed the file on the table. Boss Gu, if this is your company's attitude, then there's no need for us to cooperate. Everyone's eyes fell on the document. On the name of the client's leader, a clumsily drawn big turtle was scribbled, along with a few insulting words. Gu Huaiji's face turned livid. He never expected the mother and son he trusted to cause such a huge mess for him. Yunku looked aggrieved, tearfully explaining, "I'm sorry, I didn't expect this." The client retorted without mercy, "Who do you think you are?" "I'm talking to your boss, Gu." Gu Huaiji rubbed his aching forehead, stood up, and apologized. "I apologize, this was my oversight. I'll arrange for a new contract immediately. As a gesture of goodwill, we're willing to reduce the price by another 3%. The client remained silent, calculating the value of his pride. Yunku burst into tears, her pitiful appearance making everyone frown. There was no trace of kindness left in their expressions. In the workplace, appearance is just a bonus. What these shrewd people value most is workability. Like the previous assistant Xiao, not only was she pleasant to look at, her workability was 100 times better than Yunka's. They couldn't understand why Boss Gu would rather lose assistant Xiao. Also want to put this vase beside themselves after the crowd left. Yunka looked at him with red eyes. "Huaiji, I'm sorry. I didn't expect this to happen. What should I do?" Gu Huaiji instinctively wanted to comfort her, but froze when he met Yunka's pitiful gaze. Xiao Yanxian would never look at him like that. She was proud, striving for perfection in everything. Even if it was the most difficult thing in the most difficult situation, she could always resolve it effortlessly, unlike Yunku, who only knew how to cry, and leave the mess for him to handle. If it were Xiao Yanxian today, no, it wouldn't happen. She's meticulous, and Lele is well behaved. They would never. At this thought, Gu was distressed, eyes gradually cooled down. When he looked at Yunku again, he had regained his composure. "You can leave now. Don't interfere with what comes next." Yunku seemed something hesitated, unexpected by Gu Huaiji's distant attitude. "Huaiji, get out." Gu Huaiji lost his patience. His tone turned cold. Yunku bit her lip. In the end, she left unwillingly. Gu Huaiji collapsed weakly into the chair. Many scenes flashed through his mind. 7 years ago, I stood out among a group of outstanding candidates and was personally chosen by Gu Huaiji to be his assistant. Back then, I was just a greenhorn with no status, no background, and looks that weren't particularly striking. I didn't even understand the most basic professional terms and contracts. At the time, many people spread rumors that I slept my way to the top. To prove I deserved my place by his side, I had to work my ass off. At work, I endured sneers while asking seniors for advice. I carried a notebook with me at all times, jotting down every detail and all his preferences. After hours, I taught myself French, German, even Esperanto, striving to be his indispensable right hand. Even at business banquets, I could instantly recall everyone's preferences, effortlessly helping him navigate difficult clients. No matter when, if he needed me, I'd appear by his side. Gradually, I became someone he couldn't do without, and his constant companion in work and life. Everyone envied Gu Huaiji for having a gold star secretary like Xiao Yanxian. He himself was more than satisfied with such a capable aide. Sadly, everything was ruined that night. In his eyes, I went from his gold star secretary to a scheming woman who'd plotted to climb into his bed. My hard work became, to him, just a means to get close. The more he'd once admired me, the more he now despised me. Not even our child earned a shred of his concern. He thought, if only Yunku had been by his side, his life wouldn't have turned out like this. Now he's gotten his wish. But recalling today's events, he felt a twinge of regret. The garishly dressed Yunku today was a far cry from the unattainable white moonlight he'd once loved. Suddenly, he realized his feelings for her might have changed long ago. Maybe he didn't love Yunku that much anymore. Maybe what he loved. He rubbed his temples, trying to dismiss this absurd thought. But his mind involuntarily conjured Lele's face. He doesn't have to love me, but the child is innocent. Thinking this, Gu Huaiji took out his phone, quickly typing, "Pack your things. I'll pick you up tonight." Sensing the stiffness in his tone, he frowned and softened it. "Let's take Lele out for KFC tonight." He reread it twice. Finally, he took a deep breath and pressed send, spending the entire afternoon. The text seemed to vanish in a thin air, with no reply received. Gu Huaiji picked up his phone again and again, only to put it down in disappointment each time. Yunku brought over coffee and placed it on the table. Speaking softly, Huaiji. Gu Huaiji stared at the blank screen, not even lifting his eyelids. His tone carried an irritation, even he didn't notice. "Just leave it and go out. And, from now on, call me Boss Gu at the company. Even if you were arranged by me, we should avoid suspicion." Tears welled up in Young's eyes, her tears on the verge of falling, looking utterly pitiful. Gu Huaiji looked up, frowning slightly. He picked up the internal phone and called his secretary. Assistant E is new and not yet adjusted. Arrange for her to rotate departments first. She can return after the probation period. As Yunku was led away, she still wore that pitiful expression, but it no longer moved Gu Huaiji in the slightest. As the workday neared its end, Gu Huaiji still hadn't received any reply from me. Yet this time he was oddly patient, perhaps remembering how I'd always be left behind when we went out together. He took the rare initiative to queue at KFC for half an hour, packing up one of every item on the menu. If Lele ate any, he'd remember his favorite flavors. When he eagerly opened the door home, the vast living room stood empty. No Lele sitting on the carpet building blocks, nor me in the kitchen preparing dinner. Gu Huaiji went to the kitchen, taking a can of Coke from the fridge, only noticing when closing the door, the fridge was covered in stickers of all sizes, mostly family portraits. Gu Huaiji's heart ached, because in Lele's drawings, there was no dad. The scene of Lele first asking to draw him flashed before his eyes. Holding a sketch pad, He'd approached Gu Huaiji timidly, saying, "Daddy, can you be my model?" And what had he replied then? With a stern face, not even looking up from Yang Yang's messages on his phone. He'd brush him off. "I'm busy. No time." Remembering this, a sudden wave of inexplicable irritation and regret washed over Gu Huaiji. "It's fine. Next time Lei Lei invites him, he won't refuse." Gu Huaiji laid out the food item by item on the table. Then he looked at the phone on the table. It had been 10 minutes since Lei Lei's kindergarten dismissal. Calculating the route home. "Lei Lei, and I should be home in 5 minutes." He nervously arranged the fries, then carefully squeezed ketchup into a heart shape on the pristine plate. After finishing everything, he sat at the table, anxiously staring at the door. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. 20 minutes passed, but the door and phone remained silent. Gu Huaiji's heart felt like it was being torn apart by invisible force, leaving him tense and uneasy. Finally, after half an hour, a soft knock came from outside. Gu Huaiji happily walked to the door. "Lei Lei, guess what Dad prepared for you today?" Before he could say surprise, his smile froze. "What are you doing here?" At the doorway, Yunku stood awkwardly holding Yang Yang's hand. Hearing Gu Huaiji's unfriendly tone, Yang Yang knew he had messed up badly. He insisted on coming to apologize in person. "I also have some work matters to discuss with EDSA. After all, she used to." Gu Huaiji noticed the mother and son's tear-streaked faces, not wanting to face the neighbor's prying eyes. He reluctantly stepped aside and let them in. Yang Yang immediately spotted the KFC on the table. He reached out, but flinched at Yang's sharp glare. Hanging his head, he mumbled, "Uncle Gu, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have scribbled on your documents." Seeing Yang Yang's pitiful expression, Gu Huaiji's heart softened slightly. Lei Lei often looked at him with the same eyes. Thinking of his son, panic crept in again. "It's been so long. Why haven't Xiao Yanxian and Lei Lei come home yet?" Ignoring the mother and son, he grabbed his phone and headed to the kitchen to call me. Still switched off. He bit his lip, then dialed the company after a brief hesitation. Planning to ask about my absence today, a loud crash came from the living room. When Gu Huaiji rushed out, Yang Yang was standing on the remains of a Lego base. Tiny blocks were scattered everywhere. The living room was in complete disarray. Yunku shouted sharply, startling Yang Yang into dropping the half-eaten egg tart, running to Gu Huaiji in tears. In the past, whenever he made a mistake and his mom wanted to scold him, Gu Huaiji would shield him like a father. He thought this time would be the same. Yunku watched his actions. Not only did she not stop him, but a glint of cunning flashed in her eyes. But this time they were both wrong. Gu Huaiji took out his phone, took a few photos, and casually sent them to his lawyer, then delivered an ultimatum in a chilling tone. "The value loss caused today and the subsequent compensation, my lawyer will discuss with you. Now, please leave my home." Yunku, in her grievance, showed a hint of disbelief. "Huaiji, it's just a toy. Can Yang Yang just apologize to Lei Lei?" Gu Huaiji looked at the shattered pieces in front of him. His voice was soft, but it sent an involuntary shiver down Yang's spine. This was Lei Lei's championship prize from the Lego competition, the only one in the world. "Do you think an apology can solve this?" Yunku was speechless, but Yang Yang refused to listen. "I won't apologize. Making me apologize to the child of mistress? Why should I?" Gu Huaiji's eyes widened in shock. "What did you say?" Yunku tried to cover Yang Yang's mouth, but it was too late. Yang Yang stood defiantly, with hands on hips, glaring at Gu Huaiji. "Lei Lei's mom is a mistress. If it weren't for shamelessly seducing you back then, you should have been my dad." Gu Huaiji's voice turned icy. "Who told you that?" Yang Yang shrank back, glancing furtively at Yunku, but still shouted, "After the last parent-teacher meeting, all the kids at kindergarten said so. Only the child of mistress isn't acknowledged. His house, his dad, they should have been mine and mom's." Gu Huaiji's face darkened as if storm clouds gathered. He remembered during the parent-teacher meeting, when Lei Lei excitedly called him dad, only for him to sternly correct the child. Such behavior, how much harm had it caused? He'd never considered. But now, hearing it from the mouths of children, the damage must be immense. No wonder his expression had been so grim then. No wonder Lei Lei's eyes had filled with disappointment. What had he done? Regret surged through him like a tidal wave. Gu Huaiji, with red eyes, dragged Yang Yang by the collar to the door, then threw him on the ground. Yunku rushed out in distress, helped Yang Yang up, and tearfully accused him. "Huaiji, if you're angry, take it out on me. The child is innocent." Countless pleas echoed in Gu Huaiji's mind. "Huaiji, you can misunderstand me all you want, but the child is innocent. Can you show him some fatherly love?" He recalled that proud woman again, who never softened under his misunderstandings. The only thing that made her yield was their child. Gu Huaiji angrily called security to escort them out, then began frantically calling the company, until the call reached the HR director. His fury was barely contained. "Hello." The line was noisy. Through the receiver, he heard the HR director gently comforting a child. "Daddy has work to do. I'll play blocks with you later, okay?" A child's sweet, milky voice came through. "Daddy, hurry up, or the big monster will take over your room soon." The HR director chuckled in response, then moved to a quieter spot. Asked curiously, "Boss Gu, what's wrong?" The deep male voice snapped Gu Huaiji out of his daze. The man cleared his throat awkwardly. "What's the reason for Xiao Yanxian's absence today?" The HR director paused briefly before replying. "Assistant Xiao has resigned." "What?" Gu Huaiji blurted out, his fist clenched tightly. The HR director quickly explained. "Assistant Xiao submitted her resignation early the day before yesterday. She said her husband is on a business trip abroad. She wants to take their son to reunite with family. They're not coming back. Gu Huaiji demanded through gritted teeth. Such a big matter. Why wasn't I informed? The HR director hesitated. Boss Gu, you said Assistant Xiao was just a regular employee now. All procedures should follow company policy. Her resignation didn't require your senior approval. Seeing Assistant Xiao was determined. I processed a resignation per protocol. Is there a problem? Gu Huaiji listened. His grip tightened further, almost laughing in disbelief. Since when did Xiao Yinxian have a husband working abroad? As he prepared to explode, a child's voice suddenly came through. Daddy, why aren't you coming? The HR director soothed. Soon. Be good, baby. Let Daddy finish his call, okay? Perhaps it's every adult's innate ability. Her voice instantly softens when facing a child. Gu Huaiji listens blankly to the voice on the phone. Once again, he uncontrollably thinks of Lele. In truth, he once had a perfect family, but it seems he lost it. He numbly walks into the guest bedroom, a place he hasn't set foot in for 7 years. Everything remains exactly as it was before I left, except for the additional divorce agreement on the table. He flips through the terms, which logically outline my demands. The usually cold and stern man's eyes instantly redden. He never expected that the woman he thought was greedy only wanted Lele. Not his home, and not him anymore. Not him anymore. Gu Huaiji doesn't go to the office. Instead, he waits early at the kindergarten gate, hoping to see me smiling as I drop off Lele. But from morning till night, he waits all day, without catching a glimpse of me or Lele. At dismissal, Yang dashes out, immediately spotting Gu Huaiji's Rolls Royce, just as he prepares to climb in, amid the envious stares of the other kids. Gu Huaiji yanked it back down. Where's Lele? Did you see him today? Yang glares at Gu Huaiji, answering disdainfully no. Maybe he found out he's the child of an affair, and was too ashamed to come. He and Gu arrives just in time, to see the two standing off, her unease growing stronger. The moment she got home yesterday, she received 2 documents, a termination notice and a lawyer's letter. She thought she'd successfully won Gu Huaiji back, only to realize his heart had long been filled with me and Lele. He just refused to admit it. Upon learning his identity, the kindergarten director's shock turns to scorn. Her words turned sharp. In all these years, I've never seen someone so eager to be another kid's dad. At every parent-teacher meeting, the other kids mocked him for having no father. I really thought his dad was dead. Lele's mom already withdrew him. Aside from these unclaimed awards, I have no other information about him. Clutching a thick stack of certificates, Gu Huaiji stands at the gate, tears streaming down. He finally realizes he's lost not just his capable wife, but also his brilliant son for good. Goodbye, Gu Huaiji. It was at Lele's art exhibition. Over the years abroad, I intentionally nurtured Lele's interest in painting based on his hobbies. Though young, he's already a renowned little artist in the circle. This time, he was invited back to the country for a charity auction with his paintings. All proceeds will be donated to the orphanage, as per his wishes. As soon as the auction began, all of Lele's paintings were bought at high prices by one person. I had a faint premonition. Sure enough, during the artist's thank you session with the buyer, we saw Gu Huaiji. He looked much more weathered, his clothes wrinkled, and his chin covered with stubble. Yet he was still handsome. He stared at us intently, awkwardly accepting the flowers Lele handed him. During the hug, I heard him whisper softly, "I'm sorry, Lele. Daddy lost you. Give Daddy another chance, okay?" Lele stiffened for a moment, then quickly stepped back and smiled politely. "Thank you for your donation, sir. We also hope you'll continue to support charity in the future, helping more children find their parents." Gu Huaiji looked at Lele, his eyes reddening again. But what use is belated affection? Gu Huaiji's harm will forever be a scar in Lele's heart. Even if Lele can forgive him, I won't easily do so. After the charity sale, Gu Huaiji followed us to our home abroad. When the doorbell rang, I saw Gu Huaiji's guilty, uneasy gaze. I wasn't surprised. He stood at the door, looking at me earnestly. I didn't agree to the divorce. It was my fault before. I reflected on it many times over the years. I want my family back. Please give me a chance to properly pursue you, okay? I was unusually silent, but eventually let him in. I knew Lele still sometimes cried for his dad. But as he grew older, he hid his feelings. He never mentioned him again, afraid of upsetting me. A month later, Gu Huaiji knocked on my door again. I've moved all my business abroad. I'll strive to be a good father from now on. My son and I exchanged a smile. I believe he will.